When Justin handed over the divorce papers, Tina was busy sweet talking her 50-second boyfriend on the phone. "Tina, let's get a divorce," Justin said. "Just sign it. Wait a month for the cooling-off period to end. Then we'll go our separate ways," he continued. Hearing this, she casually replied with an aha and took the papers, flipping to the last page without even glancing at them before signing her name absent-mindedly. After signing, she stood up, grabbing her coat while still whispering sweet nothings to her new boy toy. Okay, I'll come keep you company," she murmured. After hanging up, Tina reached the door and only then seemed to remember something. She turned to look at Justin and asked, "Oh, right, Justin, what did you just have me sign?" Now she asks. After signing, Justin gave a sarcastic smile, tugging at the sides of his mouth. "Don't bother bringing me contracts if you want to buy a house in the future." Tina casually waved her hand, saying, "I'm busy sweet talking someone. I've been with you for a few days, and now he's upset with me." Hearing this, Justin realized she hadn't listened at all. She thought she was signing a real estate contract. It's like when they had their worst fights. He'd go and buy entire villas using Tina's money. Real estate was diving, but he threw billions into it just to vent his pain and anger. Back then, he still had hopes for her. That remaining bit of love made it hard for him to accept she'd changed. Why'd she have to change? He remembered their first meeting was in a bar. He was picking up a friend when he came across a drunk Tina, almost falling over. He helped her up out of kindness. She took one look at him and instantly liked him. Tina was notorious, heiress to a fortune, with a beautiful face, swapping boyfriends every few days. Half the guys in town had been heartbroken by her. Justin didn't want to be one of them. He steered clear. But instead of giving up, she fell for him even harder, chasing him endlessly, seeing no one else. On Valentine's Day, she filled a square with flowers for him. She stayed by his side, her constant presence never failing when he was down. Her persistent and grand gestures eventually won him over. When they started dating, she left her carefree ways behind, focusing solely on him. She'd check in whenever she went anywhere. Everyone said Tina had finally turned over a new leaf for him. Justin thought so too. So when she proposed with tears in her eyes, he gladly said yes. But less than a year into the marriage, she got tangled up with other guys again. They fought countless times in their shattered living room, him losing his mind, her weary and pressing her brows. Eventually, she suggested they each see other people but return home once they'd had enough fun. "Justin, I really love you, but forever with one person is just boring. We both see other people and come back home when we're done," she said. Justin wouldn't agree, but she didn't care and went ahead anyway. Gradually, he collapsed too and ended up with a naive college student, Emily. At first, it was just to spite Tina. But Emily was sweet, calling him affectionately, always there at his lowest. She was at his side when a car accident left him on the brink, staying through follow-ups. Her purity healed his wounded and aching heart over time. He thought of giving her a house or a check, but she wanted none of it, only a commitment. "Leave her and try with me," she said with clear and loving eyes. In her gaze, Justin saw a reflection of his whole self, battered by marriage but not broken. She seemed to just glow. At that moment, he was moved. Life's too short. Kids know to swap broken toys. What had he been doing all these years of crazed entanglements with Tina? So he agreed to end things with Tina and be with Emily. Just after Tina left, Justin got a video call from Emily. She was cooking, wearing a white shirt, with soft hair brushing her forehead and lashes fluttering. She looked delicate and gentle. "Have you finished the divorce?" she asked. Though much older than her and more experienced, her face still made him blush and his heart race. "Yeah, signed the divorce papers. In a month we'll be completely done," he replied. Emily's lips curved slightly with delight. "If you're done, then don't let her touch you this month. I'll check." Justin didn't expect her to say that. His face reddened, voice firm, "Don't say such things." In her eyes, a hint of possessiveness flickered briefly before she pouted. "You're mine. I won't share you." Afraid the conversation would get inappropriate, Justin hurriedly changed the topic, praising her until she hung up smiling. She was great, really. Just clingy. After the call, Justin bought a calendar. For a month, he'd mark each day passing. From October 1st to the 10th, Tina hadn't returned once. But Justin knew where she went, who she was with, and what she was doing. Her new flame, also her company's intern David, would brag about their whereabouts on social media every day. They'd either be having afternoon tea at a restaurant or playing golf. They'd either be enjoying the city lights from a mountaintop villa or soaking in a hot spring together. Funny thing is, Tina, with her wild nature, never spent that much time on one man before. Previously, those fleeting romances lasted no more than a month before she'd get bored. But this David guy somehow had managed to hold her interest for over 3 months now. Maybe it was the unusually long-lasting affair that gave him confidence. Unlike other men who kept to themselves, he boldly added Justin on social media as a quiet form of provocation. Justin didn't think much of these little tricks. He was on the brink of divorce, so why would he care? Lately, he's been keeping busy cleaning out the house. Meticulously chosen razors, suits pressed daily, and a limited edition Patek Philippe he stayed up all night to snag. Big or small, expensive or cheap, anything she gave him was packed up and tossed out. Along with the thrown items went all his grievances from the marriage and his once genuine feelings for Tina. He's decided to say goodbye to the past and start fresh. 2 days later, Tina finally returned. She frowned at the noticeably emptier villa. "Justin, did you throw away my stuff?" Justin, flipping through a magazine, simply grunted, "Yeah, tossed 'em." He added, "Things you gave me I can throw away if I want. Plus, you don't come home, so it's not like you'd need them." Tina thought he was still mad about last time and was saying these things on purpose. She sat beside him, trying to placate him casually. "Didn't we agree that we'd do our own thing outside and not get serious with anyone? Why are you suddenly bothered?" There it was again, the casual justification game. No matter what she did, she always had a variety of excuses lined up. And as her husband, he had no choice but to swallow all the pain in silence. But now he's done arguing over pointless matters. He snapped the magazine shut and headed upstairs, his tone icy cold. "You're overthinking it. I really don't care." Tina thought he was pretending not to care and held his hand. Then, under his impatient gaze, she pulled a card from her pocket and placed it in his hand. "Don't be mad. I'm taking you to an auction tomorrow. You can bid on whatever you like to cheer up, okay?" Justin instinctively wanted to decline, but a glance at the Sotheby's logo on the invite changed his mind. He agreed. After all, they were getting divorced. Might as well enjoy her money while he could. At 5 p.m., Tina's car was at the villa's entrance right on time. Justin, bag in hand, was about to open the car door when he saw a familiar face. It was David, holding a big bag of snacks and drinks from the passenger seat. He greeted Justin with innocent cheerfulness. "Sir, I get carsick. Would you mind sitting in the back today?" Seeing the fleeting smugness in his eyes, Justin glanced at a dashboard decoration that caught his view. A branded custom piece with a sign reading David's exclusive passenger seat. Without saying a word, Tina sensed Justin's displeasure and softly coaxed. "David's never been to an auction, bringing him out to see the world. He's sensitive, Justin. Can you give him a break?" "Sure, why not?" He wasn't after her anymore, just a mere seat. Justin chuckled lightly and got in the back seat. Throughout the ride, David nibbled on various cakes and snacks, feeding some to Tina using his own utensils, all the while flaunting their affection. The two chatted diversely, her laughter never waning at his funny remarks and occasional whining. Justin, throughout, couldn't even muster a glance, simply enjoying the autumn view through the car window. Upon arrival, it didn't take long before David began whining about his shoes hurting his feet. Tina teasingly called him delicate, but without a second thought, she led him to a nearby mall to pick out flat shoes, helping him try on pair after pair. Watching her half kneel to check shoe softness, Justin couldn't help but recall when he fell sick with a fever, deeply hoping she'd just get him a glass of water. Yet she refused with a sense of superiority. Indeed, David was her little prince on a pedestal with preferential treatment. But once, wasn't he also cherished by her the same way? Back in the day, he didn't want to yield to her pursuits and jokingly said if she could get red bean cakes, he might consider. The specific cakes were far across the city, and given it was snowing heavily, it was evidently a challenging task. Nevertheless, she set off, returning after 5 hours with still warm cakes from her arms. Numerous times after, Justin wondered why, if the love back then was genuine, did she change so swiftly? Perhaps she hadn't changed. He just failed to see her true nature, at first unseen by him, the deep oceanic nature of her being. And no one ever draws back the depths of the ocean. Justin laughed to himself, took the invitation, and entered the venue ahead. It wasn't until the first auction item was up that Tina and David finally made their entrance. The event was both an auction and a dinner, tables adorned with delicacies and seasonal crabs. As they sat, David fixated on the crab, pestering Tina to have some. With a resigned, gentle smile, Tina carefully folded his sleeves and declined a waiter's help, taking it upon herself to gracefully crack the crab, serving the meat and roe to him. Seeing her chivalrous elegance brought stars of admiration to David's eyes. Justin, however, remained quietly observant, noticing that after finishing the crab, David pointed to the rare, limited edition luxury watch being showcased. Tina promptly raised her bidding card. Bidder 17 put in an offer for $300 million. As soon as that price came out, the room was buzzing. No one dared to compete, and you could hear people everywhere gasping. Soon after, it was time for a break at the dinner party. A bunch of folks with their drinks headed to table 17, looking to schmooze a bit. They noticed how Tina was doting over David, so they started sucking up to him too, showering him with sir this and sir that. Tina raised her eyes and casually reminded them, "Oops, you got the wrong guy. That's actually my husband." In a flash, the guests who got it wrong looked super awkward and quickly tried to correct themselves. Justin remained silent, brushing off the surprised and somewhat pitying glances. They weren't entirely wrong, though. Soon enough, he wouldn't be Mr. Shin anymore. The way Tina adored David, who knew, maybe right after grabbing the divorce papers, she'd let him move in. After the short break, the auction continued, featuring antiques in the second half. Justin wasn't interested in those. He just bid on a few of the priciest collectibles and left early. As he reached the elevator, he suddenly heard David behind him. "Mr. Got a minute to chat?" Justin paused and said, "Nothing to talk about with you." Before he could finish, he noticed David raising his hand. Slap! The next moment, a swift slap landed hard on his face. The slap packed quite a punch, and Justin's face turned bright red instantly. He instinctively covered his face, his mind spinning and blank. "David, what the hell?" Once he recovered, anger surged through Justin, and he raised his hand to return the slap. But his hand never made it to David's face. Tina caught it mid-air. Tina grabbed his wrist, her voice tinged with anger. "Justin, David didn't provoke you. Why would you try to hit him?" Justin yanked his hand back, feeling the sting. His voice shook. "Me? Hit him? Tina, ask around, see who hit who first." Hearing that, David immediately put on a pitiful face, tears welling up. "Tina, you told me I needed more courage, so I thought I'd try standing up to my husband in public to gain some guts. I mean, when else would I get the chance? But Mr. was so scary just now, I was terrified, wah wah." Once Tina understood what went down, she frowned. "I told you to get brave, not to hit people." And Justin, of all people. David sniffled, tears streaming like beads on a string. "I'm sorry, I was dumb. You said he was easygoing, so I thought hitting him wouldn't even upset him. I didn't expect this." His crying melted Tina's heart, and she forgot about being mad. She wiped his tears and tried to comfort him. "It's okay, no one's blaming you. Stop crying, it's all right." Watching all this, anger and pain flared in Justin, and he couldn't hold back anymore. He yelled out, "Tina, I'm the one who got hit. How can you forgive for me? And David, what innocent act are you playing? Who would think hitting people is a way to get brave?" David shuddered from Justin's words, crying even harder, gasping for air as if on the verge of passing out. Tina was deeply moved, dismissive, David grew up spoiled, doesn't have much strength. How hard could a slap be? And now he's so guilty he's practically fainting from crying. Justin, that's enough. Saying that, she left with David in tow. Justin couldn't believe what he just heard, feeling like he was plunged into an ice pit. In the end, he's not even sure how he got home. He kept telling himself not to cry. Holding back tears all the way, his eyes ended up bloodshot. When he finally reached home, the housekeeper noticed the red mark on his face and was shocked. She asked if he'd been bullied, ready to call Tina to stand up for him. No need, he softly stopped her. All of his pain, it was all by her hands. Justin sat by the window with an ice pack on his face for an hour. The swelling finally went down a bit when he got a message from David. "Mr. Made it home? I'm at the hospital. Tina was so worried about me. I just passed out, and she got me the whole VIP floor with a dozen doctors for tests. How's your face, by the way? Must really hurt from what I did. Look, if you want, swing by the hospital and maybe I'll lend you a doc to check if your face is fine." Justin just glanced at it and sent it straight to Tina. It wasn't until the early hours that she replied with a few words. He meant well. Justin laughed, a bitter laugh mixed with tears. In the next moment, he sent a voice message. "Protecting him so much? Why not marry him? I'll step aside and wish you both a lifetime of happiness." Tina replied almost immediately. "Justin, why say things out of anger? How many times do I have to tell you you are my husband? With these people, I'm just having fun. Don't overthink, please. Rest up. I'll be home tomorrow." Seeing that message, Justin felt frustrated, like punching a pillow. He chuckled bitterly and, not wanting more pointless chatter, turned off his phone. The next day, after lunch, Justin went back to the old house. He brought the jade jewelry set, a family heirloom supposedly, his mother-in-law gave him when they got married. Unfortunately, Tina's parents had flown out to Bali for vacation that morning, so they weren't home. Justin asked around, and hearing they'd be back only a month later, he handed the jewelry to the housekeeper and left. After grabbing a few things from the store, he headed home. The lights were on in the living room. Tina was on the sofa, a bunch of gift boxes piled on the table. Hearing him come in, she put down her phone and glanced at him. "Heard from the housekeeper you returned the family heirloom?" Justin just made a sound like Tina let out a little sigh and sat down next to him. "Are you still mad? Come on, I got you so many gifts. Can you forgive me just this once?" Even when he gave the family heirloom back, her first reaction was still that he was mad. Not that he wanted to cut her out completely. She's that sure of herself, so sure he'll never leave her. That's why she does whatever she wants and suggests crazy things like just seeing other people, breaking his heart with different guys every time. Justin didn't say anything. He just glanced at the box with the familiar logo and then looked a bit sarcastic. "The things I want are one of a kind." Tina was puzzled. Somehow Justin knew she picked the same gift for David and seemed momentarily startled. "Justin, you've got it wrong. I sincerely wanted to apologize. I asked David to help me pick it. He liked it too, so I bought two. Don't sweat the small stuff, okay? Small stuff, small stuff." Justin's so tired of that term. He flipped the gifts over. "Gifts can come by the dozen. Is your love sliced up into pieces too? Tina, I just regret it now." His eyes were getting wet. Regret believing her back then. Regret marrying her. He didn't finish, but Tina understood what he meant. She couldn't just sit there anymore. Grabbing his hand, she said, "Justin, you gotta know, my heart's really only for you. If not, why would I marry you? Just give me a few more years to have fun, and I'll come back to you." Empty words. Justin didn't want to hear them anymore. He pulled his hand away, sounding incredibly calm. Then just wait. She thought he had calmed down and picked up the bags scattered on the ground to hand them over. Justin knew she didn't understand what he said but didn't explain. He took the bags and just headed upstairs. He was waiting for the divorce cooling off period to end. Not her wake-up call. Justin's birthday was coming up. Tina's parents, despite being overseas, remembered and had a valuable bracelet shipped from Europe. The address was Group's HQ. Justin was going to tell them about the divorce deal with Tina. But since they were off traveling, He didn't want to ruin it for them, so he held back. He dropped by the group. Tina's parents had left the gift on his office desk. She was in a meeting, so he went in alone. Right when he opened the door, he saw David already taken the outer packaging off, wearing that glittering bracelet on his wrist. David looked startled when he saw him and put on a timid, scared face right away. "Sir, what brings you here?" Justin wasn't interested in his display. He walked over, intending to take back his bracelet. "Came to get what's mine." At his words, David's eyes flashed with envy and unwillingness. He held onto the bracelet tightly. "Like it that much?" Justin was about to let go when David purposely jabbed his fingers against the sharp edge of the desk. Blood dripped from his fingertips as he fell onto the couch, sobbing softly. "Sir, it just looked nice. I wanted to admire it a bit more. Do you have to be so harsh?" Before Justin could react, he was pushed off balance from behind, landing hard on the coffee table. His forehead hit the table's edge with a thud, bleeding immediately. His face went pale from the pain. As he looked over, he saw Tina rushing in, her eyes full of concern, tending to David's wound, distracting and bandaging it. At that moment, Justin realized David's act. He managed to stand up shakily, picked up the blood-stained bracelet, and held it up to David. Tina thought he was showing off, and an unexplainable anger boiled inside. She was about to lash out when Justin beat her to it. "You like it? It's yours. Take it." David stopped acting surprised and forgot to shed fake tears. Tina didn't get what he was doing either, frowning hard. "That was from Mom and Dad. For you." "For me?" "No, for the son-in-law. He soon won't be." Justin put the bracelet down. "I have a cleanliness obsession. Blood-stained stuff is unlucky. It's all yours." He didn't care what kind of faces they pulled, leaving the office right away. Watching his calm departure, Tina frowned deeply. Since getting married, Justin's two known hobbies were clear: buying houses and hoarding jade. When he got mad, she would always use these to comfort him. For him to just give away a valuable collectible gem? When Justin's birthday came, Tina still didn't come back. Everyone at the party was asking about her, assuming she was prepping a surprise. Traditionally, she had been glued by his side. Justin wasn't concerned about where she was, just wanted to celebrate his birthday right. After today, he'd be 27, ready for a new chapter. Why waste time on old matters? He didn't reply, just picked up a champagne bottle, shaking it like a firework about to pop. "Here's to me on my birthday." His voice was full of freedom and relief, making people laugh and raise their glasses. "Here's to the most handsome, young, and kind Justin's birthday." Justin chuckled. "Not anymore. Tina and I are divorced." Just as he said the word divorced, the sound of a door being suddenly opened cut it off. The guests in the living room turned around and saw David at the doorway, looking awkward as he supported a drunk Tina. With so many eyes on him, David's face turned red, and he started to stammer. "Sorry to interrupt, I brought Tina back. It was Justin's birthday, so why was Tina out getting drunk?" This question lingered in everyone's mind. Justin seemed unfazed. He put down his drink and walked to the door, intending to help Tina inside. But Tina refused to let go of David's hand, even hugging him. She went as far as to kiss David's forehead right in front of everyone. David's face turned scarlet in a second. The onlookers were shocked by the scene. Justin acted like he didn't notice, just tightened his grip a little. Tina impatiently pushed him away and buried her head in David's neck, her tone filled with teasing. "Why do you smell so good?" "Huh?" That comment left the whole room silent as a grave. David blushed, though his eyes showed a hint of pride. Still, he played it off. "Sir, Tina's just drunk and rambling. Don't mind her. She's been overworked and forgot your birthday." That innocent talk managed to get to Justin. Without bothering to expose his lame excuses, Justin took a few steps back and gave way. "The bedroom is on the second floor, far left. Help her up there." David hadn't expected Justin to be so calm. His smile froze, but soon, he nodded and led Tina upstairs. Once they were out of sight, Justin picked up the champagne bottle and smiled at the guests. Anyone still in the mood to drink? Understandably, the vibe was killed, and everyone started making excuses to leave. Watching the living room slowly empty out, Justin leaned against the couch, sipping his drink. By 11, David finally came downstairs. With no one left to put on a show for, he swaggered out, slamming the door for effect. Just after he left, Justin's phone rang. Seeing Emily on the screen, a small smile crept onto his usually indifferent face. "Didn't we just talk this morning?" On the other side, Emily's voice sounded a bit glum. "It's your birthday. If you won't come to see me, can't I at least call to wish you happy birthday?" Thinking of how pouty she got when he couldn't come earlier, Justin softened and began to coax her gently. "Sweetheart, this is the last birthday I'll spend while married. If it makes you happy, I'll give you all my future birthdays. You can celebrate them however you want." "Okay." Hearing this, Emily sounded amused. "Any way I want? Promise you won't back out." He chuckled softly. "I even got divorced for you. When have I ever lied to you?" The two chatted for a good while, and after wrapping up their conversation, Justin was about to hang up when fireworks exploded outside. Turning, he saw the dark night skies lit up with millions of bright blasts, way brighter than any falling star could ever be. Emily's gentle but determined voice came through the phone. This time, she didn't call him brother. "Justin, happy birthday. Every year from now on, I'll be by your side." Her words stunned Justin. Did Emily arrange this? He rushed to the window, realizing the whole city was lighting up, revealing a costly display. Emily was just a student. How could she afford it? Must have been a coincidence. The next day, Tina woke up and saw the party decorations still up in the living room, realizing it had been Justin's birthday the day before. Rubbing her aching head, she called her assistant to pick out the most expensive jade pieces and deliver them immediately. But instead of the secretary, David showed up. Seeing him, Tina's headache intensified, and she spoke more sharply than usual. "Why are you here?" David pouted, his eyes filled with faux hurt. "I wanted to see you more, so I volunteered to bring the gifts." "I'm sorry. If it bothers you, I won't come anymore." Tina couldn't resist him. Watching him pretend to cry, she caved, soothing him quickly. "All right, I didn't mean it like that. Don't cry, okay?" David continued his dramatic act, crying even more. Tina, desperate to calm him down, promised she'd fulfill any request he had. His tears finally stopped, and he spoke softly. "Anything? Even if it's a star in the sky, I'll get it for you. I want to stay in this villa for a few days, be with you all the time." "Okay." Tina's smile faltered, not because of anything else, but because she'd promised Justin she wouldn't bring anyone home, no matter what. Just as she was about to say no, footsteps came from the staircase, along with the housekeeper's greetings. She quickly stood, intending to explain to Justin why David was there, but David spoke first. "Good morning, sir. This is the birthday gift from Tina." "Oh yeah, my neighborhood's been sketchy lately, so Tina agreed I could stay here a few days. You don't mind, right?" Justin ignored the provocation and remained expressionless. "Suit yourself." David didn't expect Justin to be so indifferent, forgetting the prepared lines for his boast. Neither did Tina, surprised by his easygoing manner. Just as she was about to speak, David clung to her arm, playing the brat. "You see, Tina? He's totally okay with it." The words of refusal were caught in her throat. She looked up at Justin and finally noticed something was off. She frowned slightly. "Justin, do you really not mind?" Justin's expression was indifferent. "Doesn't matter. Let him stay." After that, he signaled for the housekeeper to serve breakfast and leisurely returned to his room. David, pleased at achieving his goal, immediately went home to pack his bags. Tina, however, was left standing there, frozen. All morning, she was uneasy and found excuses to knock on Justin's door several times. "My brother can be a bit noisy. Aren't you worried he'll bother you by moving in? If you're not happy, just say it. I won't let him move in." "Justin, I said before, those people outside are just for fun. They can't compare to you. Don't bottle things up." Again and again, Justin grew annoyed. He pressed his fingers to his temples. "I told you I really don't mind. Seeing his expression, Tina, usually nonchalant and carefree, suddenly felt a wave of panic. "Why don't you mind? You weren't like this before." Justin glanced at her and gave a natural smile. "Isn't that great? Didn't you always hope I'd stay this way?" With that, he used the excuse of needing sleep to gently show her out. That night, David moved in with his luggage. Justin watched as he acted like the man of the house, ordering the servants around, but he said nothing. He just quietly tore off a page from the wall calendar. The sound of it, like nails on a chalkboard, sent shivers down Tina's spine. Seeing the few remaining pages, she couldn't help but ask, "Do you tear that calendar every day for something important?" "Nope, just for fun." His casual tone made Tina increasingly anxious. She thought about Justin's recent odd behavior, which started after David showed up, and had a moment of realization. Watching David on the second floor pointing and giving orders, she finally stood up. "Justin, this is our home. My promise won't change. David doesn't belong here. I'll send him back today." With that, she rushed upstairs. It was unclear what she told David, but soon he was teary-eyed and reluctantly left with her, lugging his suitcase. Finally, peace returned. For the next few days, Tina didn't return. Justin didn't mind, he busied himself with packing. On the third to last day, he visited the notary to ensure that properties purchased with her card were rightly under his name. The day before last, he moved all the jewelry from the exhibition cabinets to a bank safe, planning to transfer them to a new place after finalizing the divorce. He'd wasted 5 years on Tina, and he wasn't leaving without compensation. This is his fee for emotional damage. Chapter 9. On the last day, Justin tore off the final calendar page. Just then, his phone buzzed with a message from David. A picture of a pocket watch that his late grandmother had given him. "Sir, I borrowed your watch because it looked nice, but I'm bored with it now. Come get it." Steam rose in Justin as he read the taunting text, and he rushed to the location provided. His car stopped by the central bridge. David stood by the river, holding the watch up high, wearing a mocking grin. "Justin, I called you here to see who Tina cares about more, you or me." Justin had a bad feeling, but seeing the swaying watch, he couldn't waste time or energy arguing. He moved forward, reaching for it. David was put off by Justin's indifferent stance. He hated Justin's above-it-all attitude, thinking he'd only gotten this far because of Tina. Overcome by jealousy and spite, David tossed the watch into the river. The act infuriated Justin. With David looking smug, he finally snapped and slapped him hard. "David!" Covering his face, David was about to retort, but saw a speeding car in his peripheral vision and pushed Justin into the river. As Tina got out of the car, David swiftly followed Justin, diving in. The frigid water dragged Justin down as he searched for the watch. Finally finding it as his air ran out, he swam upwards with all his might, only to have David holding him back. He was weak and his mind grew hazy, everything fading. As the two began to sink, there was a splash. Tina had jumped in. Before losing consciousness, Justin saw her unwaveringly swim toward David, watched her save him and bring him to shore, watched her cradling an unconscious David, calling his name over and over. She never looked once at him. Through blurred vision, tears slid down Justin's face. Summoning his last bit of strength, he surged out of the water. The afternoon sun warmed his drenched body as he climbed out, gasping for air. Standing tall, he looked towards the bridge where Tina was administering CPR to David. Tightening his grip on the watch, he walked towards the street. Just as they brushed past each other, Tina belatedly called out to Justin, "Justin, you can swim. That's why I saved David first. Are you okay?" Justin paused for a moment. "I'm fine." Watching David slowly open his eyes, Tina finally breathed a sigh of relief. She walked over and grabbed Justin's hand, saying, "Justin, let me take you home." Before she could finish, David's voice interrupted, sounding teary. "Tina, my head hurts." Tina hesitated for a moment, and Justin, with a hoarse voice, said, "You should take care of him. Don't worry about me." Tina quickly replied, "I'll take him to the hospital and come back to be with you." From where she couldn't see, Justin shook his head with teary eyes. His meaning was clear. From now on, she didn't have to worry about him anymore. After today, their marriage was officially over, and they had nothing to do with each other. Tina, 7 years of torment is finally over today. I've let go, just as you wanted, and I'm moving on to someone else's arms. With that, he stumbled towards the car, step by step, and opened the door. For some reason, watching his back as he left, Tina felt a sudden panic. Justin, she called out instinctively, but he didn't even turn around. She could only watch the car drive out of sight. When he got home, the butler, having been notified ahead of time, already prepared ginger tea and brought out a full set of exquisite jade. Sir, the madame instructed me to prepare these for you. She said she would come back tonight for dinner with you. Dinner after a divorce? He shook his head, got up, and went upstairs to change clothes, packing the last of his belongings. After dragging his luggage downstairs and ignoring the butler's shocked questions, he said hoarsely, "When Tina comes back, let her take a good look at the document she signed a month ago. Tell her that Tina, in Justin's story, the chapter is officially over." With that, he stepped out the door, took the ring off his finger, and tossed it into the trash can at the entrance, then got into his car. The dark purple sports car sped south, disappearing into the night. The car came to a halt outside the villa. Seeing the entrance empty, Justin took off his sunglasses and asked, "Where's Emily? Didn't she say there was a surprise for me? Now that I'm free, she doesn't come out to greet me?" Full of questions, Justin pushed open the unusually quiet door. With a loud thud, cheerful piano music began to play seamlessly. The dimly lit living room suddenly brightened to daylight, revealing everything hidden in the dark. The living room, newly adorned with pink and white roses, was filled with a light floral scent. Familiar and unfamiliar faces smiled, wheeling out a giant castle cake from the other room. Emily, dressed in a pink and white strapless evening gown, was seated at the piano with a focused expression. She played with a fervor, the music flowing like a spring. From afar, the scene looked like a dream, and Justin felt his heart skip a beat. He was enveloped in an unreal feeling, driven unconsciously by the music. Step by step until he stopped at the piano, just as the last note concluded. Emily lifted her eyes, more brilliant than the stars, and like magic, presented him with a bouquet of roses. "Justin, thank you for choosing me, for coming to my side." With her words, a tidal wave of cheers erupted from behind. "Justin, congrats on the divorce. Congratulations on finding love again." Justin, freshly divorced, was a bit overwhelmed by the lively scene. He pursed his lips lightly, a hint of shyness in his eyes. Seeing his ears turn slightly red, Emily let out a soft smile, rising to snuggle into his arms. The teasing around them grew louder. Justin buried his head in her shoulder, only to hear her laugh-filled words reach his ears. "Justin, you mentioned giving me a title. Does that still hold?" Justin was slightly taken aback, looking at her in surprise. Under her serious gaze, he nodded gently. In the next moment, Emily stepped back and suddenly pulled out a bouquet. The crowd's cheers grew louder, nearly lifting the roof. When she took out a box from her pocket, revealing a pure and dazzling diamond ring, Justin felt his breath catch. It was then he vaguely realized why she had put together such an elaborate surprise and asked him that question. And as he thought, that's exactly what it was. Emily took his hand and placed a kiss as light as a feather on his right ring finger. Focusing on him and all their friends, she asked with utmost sincerity, "Justin, will you give me a chance to become your fiancé?" Everyone around collectively held their breath, waiting until after the proposal to shout in unison, "Say yes." Justin's heart raced with the enthusiastic cheers. Looking into those eyes so near, filled with expectation, memories of countless moments with her sped through his mind. When they first met, she was there for him when he was devastated and drinking. She was the one who wiped away his tears then, with unmatched gentleness. When he talked about wanting to be her patron, she would hug him, saying it was her honor to catch his eye. During countless sleepless nights, she sat by him, sharing interesting stories to lift his spirits. Emily made him believe that his life hadn't reached a dead end. He still had the chance and strength to start anew. She taught him that his overwhelming love wouldn't drown in a hopeless marriage abyss, but rather be reborn after the trial. He had crossed that nightmarish darkness and reached the dawn. And waiting there at the end of his journey was Emily. So even though he felt uncertain about the future, uneasy about walking from one marriage into another, it all vanished because of the person before him. He made the most sincere choice, giving the most steadfast answer. I do. In the early hours of the morning, David's fever finally broke. After getting him to sleep, Tina stepped out onto the balcony. She rubbed her tired eyes and sent 2 messages to Justin on her phone. Justin, I've got something to deal with tonight. I'll come see you tomorrow. Are you feeling all right? Anything bothering you? Need me to send a family doctor over? The guy who usually replied in seconds was silent today. After waiting a few minutes with no response, Tina figured he was asleep and left it at that. She sank into a chair, answered some work messages, and opened her social media feed. Mixed in with all the vacation and party posts were a few proposal videos from the same angle. They were shared by some of Justin's friends, and seeing them, Tina squinted and couldn't help but click on one. The video opened on the girl getting proposed to. Tina felt the face looked vaguely familiar, like she'd met her before somewhere. But she didn't dwell on who it was and was about to exit when the camera panned to the left, catching the guy getting proposed to from behind. With one glance, Tina sat bolt upright, eyes wide with her phone close to her face. The guy's back looked an awful lot like Justin's. That thought raced through her mind, then she dismissed it quickly. She shook her head, trying to clear it. They were still married, he still wore his wedding ring. How could he agree to someone else's proposal? It was probably just a friend she hadn't met before. With this reasoning, she calmed herself and exited the video, even leaving a like. The next minute, she heard coughing from the hospital room, and her thoughts of resting were gone as she went back to care for David. All night, David stirred restlessly, waking and sleeping, and Tina stayed awake, vigilant against his fever returning. By morning, exhausted, she called in her assistant to stay with David while she headed home to rest. When she stepped into the house, she sensed something was different, an unusual emptiness. She couldn't pinpoint it at first, but soon noticed that the previously cluttered spaces seemed oddly bare. All the collectibles in 3 or 4 display cases had vanished, the colorful tableware in the dining cabinet was gone, and the cushions and toys from the sofa had disappeared too. Walking through the house, her frown deepened. When she reached the bedroom and opened the door, about to ask Justin what's up, the sight stopped her cold. If the living room had seemed half empty, the bedroom was even more cleared out. Only her clothes remained in a few wardrobes. The vanity and jewelry areas were wiped clean, and every surface was empty. It finally hit her that something was off. Justin and all his things were gone. Was he pulling the "I'm upset, I'm moving out" stunt again? That thought lit a fire of anger in her. She'd told him so many times it was just a game. Why couldn't he let it go? Clearly, the recent display of largesse and tolerance was all an act. More frustrated, she summoned the housekeeper, her tone laced with annoyance. "Mister, moved out and you didn't tell me? Where did he go?" The housekeeper stammered through an explanation, eyes wide. "It's because last time you said, no matter what Mr. does, we should let him be and not bother you with these things, so we didn't report. He had his drivers come pick him up. He probably moved back to his place." Back to his place? So his parents might know too? How did Justin blow such a small thing out of proportion? Tina's face turned stormy as she grabbed her phone to call him. After a long ring, no answer came. Her patience wore thin, and as she kept dialing, she moved to the bed. Pressing her fingers to her weary eyes, a glimpse of a stack of papers on the nightstand caught her attention. Seeing the words "divorce agreement," she froze, a look of disbelief slowly spreading across her face. Divorce? Was this Justin's current antics? Realizing this, fury flared anew within Tina. Even during their worst fights, he never brought this up. Now just because he fell into some water and she wasn't there for him, he wants a divorce? Is his gripe with David so huge? Is marriage a mere game to him? Anger surged, veins bulging on her forehead, as she grabbed the papers, about to flip through them when Justin's cold voice came through the phone. What's up? You're really pulling a divorce stunt to threaten me? Is this really necessary? Faced with her angry demand, Justin sounded unsettlingly calm. He picked up a remote, opened the curtains, stretched a bit, and slowly replied, "Of course not." Hearing this, Tina's tension eased for a split second, then spiked again with his next words. "Our marriage is done. Why would I need to threaten? Done?" Tina let out a sarcastic laugh, eyes stormy. "You think it's over because you say so? I'll never agree to sign any divorce papers." "Oh, so you haven't seen the contents yet." Justin, in slippers, strolled to the table, sipping the coffee he had prepared in advance. "I'd advise you not to speak too soon. Maybe look over the agreement first." His nonchalant tone suddenly unsettled Tina's firm stance. Her grip tightened on the paper, creasing it in frustration. After a moment of hesitation, she decided against further arguing and opened the agreement. It stated the divorce was due to infidelity, and marital assets would be split by law. At the bottom, her own signature was glaringly there. The moment she saw those 3 words, her mind went blank for a second. Her first thought was someone forged her handwriting, and anger bubbled up inside her. "Justin, forging signatures is illegal," she thought. "This agreement can't be valid." Forgery? Justin couldn't help but chuckle softly. Remembering the scene from the day they signed the agreement, he could understand her feelings and patiently explained. "If you don't believe it, you can have a professional do a handwriting analysis, see if it's really you who signed it." Tina's already tangled heart turned into a complete mess. She stared at those fancy scribbles over and over, trying to find any flaw. But from start to finish, the strokes and writing style were identical to her own. She felt suffocated, as if she couldn't breathe. She didn't remember signing this divorce agreement. Did he trick her into signing it when she was drunk or unaware? That seemed like the only possibility. Finding a sliver of hope, Tina took a deep breath, her tone becoming firm again. "You tricked me into signing it without me knowing. It doesn't count." Justin expected this day to come. He pulled out a video from the day she signed and sent it over. "This divorce is final, no more room for negotiation. If you have any disputes or different thoughts, whether it's an amicable divorce or going to court, contact my lawyer. He'll handle the divorce proceedings for me. Tina, this marriage is over for me." With a beep, the line went dead. Tina was so angry at Justin's resolute tone that her face turned dark, a stormy expression. She opened the video, and as soon as she saw the noisy bar in the background, a blurry memory came to her mind. The next second, a crystal clear "Let's Get Divorced" played from the speaker, and Tina felt her blood freeze. She fixated on the screen, watching herself casually answering the phone on the couch and then signing her name on the agreement without any hesitation. She shivered uncontrollably. After watching the brief video only once, hidden memories surged back. So, that day, what Justin asked her to sign wasn't a property agreement, but a divorce agreement. Her mind was full of her little tantrum about David. So she hadn't heard what he said at all or seen what she was signing. Justin was telling the truth. She had signed this agreement while sober. Panic and helplessness replaced the shadows in her eyes. She stood up in a rush, grabbed the agreement, and raced downstairs to her car, speeding toward Justin's place. Her mind replayed the scene of her signing the document, and Justin's last words before hanging up echoed in her ears. No one knew better than her what kind of person Justin was. She finally realized this time she had really messed up. After playing the field for over 10 years, for the first time, Tina felt the fear of losing something. It overwhelmed her. The Shin family said Justin had not returned home. One word shattered the last hope she was holding on to. She called and messaged Justin, asking where he was, but got no response. Tina couldn't accept this outcome. Like a madwoman, she drove everywhere she could think of. Every place they had dated, the house he bought when he was angry, the old family home, his friends' places. After a whole day of searching, She had nothing. She hadn't slept for over 30 hours and was completely exhausted. She had no strength left. Yet, her tense nerves kept her alarmingly alert. So she kept downing coffee, trying to focus. As her frustration reached a peak, David called. "Tina, why aren't you answering my messages? If you get lost." Hearing his whiny voice, Tina lost any patience for playing nice and hung up immediately. Her startled secretary, who had just come in, reported in a timid voice. "Tina, we tracked him through road cameras. He seems to have gone to the villa." "The villa?" Tina remembered that Justin had a villa he bought before their marriage. She left her phone and rushed out. Her secretary picked it up, intending to follow, just as David called again. Watching Tina's car speed off, her secretary remembered her instructions to pay attention to David's matters and answered the call. "Hello, David? Tina's busy right now." "Yes, she probably went to the villa. When will she be back?" "I'm not sure." Knock, knock, knock. The urgent pounding on the door made Emily put down the half-peeled fruit she held. She glanced at Justin in the bathroom, then walked to the door. Opening it, she saw Tina's anxious face and a knowing look flashed in Emily's eyes. "Who are you?" Tina was too focused on finding Justin to even look at Emily and tried to push past her into the living room. "Move aside." Seeing her eagerness, Emily twirled the fruit knife in her hand, blocking Tina's path just inches from her eyes. "This is private property. If you force your way in, you'll face the consequences." Seeing the sharp blade, Tina regained a bit of sanity. She stepped back, lifting her dark, angry eyes, her voice laced with anger. "This is my house. You're the one trespassing. Who are you?" Emily smiled slightly, a pleasant expression on her face. "This is my fiancé's home." Hearing those words, Tina was stunned. She looked up at the nameplate on the wall, then at the person in front of her. She realized she had seen this person somewhere before. It seemed she was the woman from that proposal video. So, was she Justin's friend's fiancée? But this house was under Justin's name. Did he give it to his friend? Tina's mind raced with countless thoughts, but she was still clueless. So she decided to just ask directly. "Who's your fiancé?" Emily was waiting for that question. She put away the knife, gently blew off the dust, and glanced at Tina with a smug and pleased look in her eyes. "Exactly. What are you doing here?" Hearing Justin's voice, they both turned around. Emily's haughty demeanor vanished instantly, and she became as docile as a declawed cat. "Justin, this person suddenly broke into the house. I think she's a thief. Should I call the cops?" Her quick change in attitude left Tina dumbfounded. But the moment she caught Justin's gaze, she snapped back to reality and hurriedly called out, "Justin!" Justin didn't expect to walk out of the shower into a showdown between his ex-wife and fiancé. He wiped the water off his hair and walked to the door, speaking in a calm voice. "What are you doing here? Didn't I say to contact my lawyer if anything comes up?" Just one sentence extinguished the glimmer of hope in Tina's eyes. She visibly wilted, looking panic-stricken and confused, her voice carrying a hint of urgency. "Justin, I think there's some misunderstanding between us. Can we talk this through?" Justin frowned slightly. Instead of responding to her, he turned to look at Emily and spoke a bit softer. "Weren't you going to make dessert? Go ahead. I'll help you out when I'm done here." Upon hearing this, Emily's face fell, and she reluctantly shook her head. "I don't trust this person, Justin." Justin didn't let her finish, coaxing her a few steps inside before closing the door. He then turned back to look at Tina, his voice turning frosty again. "A misunderstanding? I don't think there's any misunderstanding between us. Everything you did this past year really happened, didn't it? It's perfectly reasonable to divorce a wife who cheated multiple times." Watching how these two interacted in a way that was more than just friends, a strong sense of disgust arose in Tina. She was about to ask Justin who this person really was when his words threw her off balance again. "I was wrong, Justin. Could you forgive me? Give me another chance, and I promise I won't mess up again. You'll be the only one in my heart. I swear." Justin had heard a similar promise from Tina 5 years ago when she was trying to win him over. But the result? So, hearing her promise again now, he only found it laughable. What makes you think I'd give up the freedom I finally got to go back to a miserable marriage? Why do you think I'd give a second chance to a promise-breaking woman like you? This place isn't a recycling center. You've picked the wrong person. Tina's face turned ghostly pale at his words. She didn't understand how things had gotten to this point. She felt her mind was in chaos. Regret and fear were slowly eating away at the little sanity she had left. She wanted to explain it all, but considering what she had done, she felt she had no defense. Silence stretched between them. Who knows how much time passed before a familiar voice came from the entrance of the house. Tina. David, still recovering from illness, ran over breathlessly and grabbed Tina's arm. Justin glanced at their clasped hands, and Tina, as if waking from a dream, threw his hand off urgently, pushing him to the ground. David didn't expect to be humiliated in front of Justin. Angrily, he looked up, meeting Tina's cold stare and Justin's brief smirk. He interpreted the smile as mocking revenge, fueling his rage further, and couldn't help but perform his act. Tina, what's wrong? Did he say something to you again? Didn't you promise not to believe one side of the story? Didn't you tell me he has a bad temper but you'd be understanding? Shut up. His manipulative words halted abruptly when Tina shot him a chilling glare. Watching their little drama unfold, Justin couldn't help but find it amusing, offering a critique. Since we're divorced, let him continue. I'm really curious about how the person I loved for 5 years turned out to be such a deceitful hypocrite. Tina's eyes widened, desperate to explain, but David interrupted with a shocked exclamation. You're divorced? Justin nodded, smiling indifferently at the fallen man before him. Yes, divorced. And I'll never remarry. Congrats, David, your turn now. Each word was like a knife stabbing into Tina's heart. She trembled uncontrollably, staring at Justin with despair, but only saw his calm smile. That liberating smile was 100 times more painful than his words. Ashamed to face him and fearing more unbearable words, she stumbled away into the darkening evening. She had to escape. The pain here was just too much for her to bear. David hadn't recovered from the shock yet when he got knocked down. He watched Tina walking further away. He got up slowly, leaning on the ground, wanting to chase her. But then something hit him, and he turned around, giving Justin a smug look. Justin, I've always said you stand no chance against me. Justin quietly watched him, walking down the stone steps step by step until he was in front of him. He was about 5 centimeters taller than David, so he glanced down, easily seeing the arrogance in David's eyes. Remembering the water-damaged pocket watch and everything from before, Justin realized it was time to settle things with him. He flexed his fingers and joints, put on a polite smile, and then gave David a hard slap across the face, surprising him. With a loud smack, David's already flushed face swelled from the impact, and he was knocked a few meters away from the force. Despite the stinging and numbness in his fingertips, Justin felt incredibly satisfied and at ease. He fearlessly met David's fiery gaze and spoke softly. This slap is for you. Got any complaints? David didn't expect him to suddenly attack, but he had no strength to retaliate, only screaming at the top of his lungs. Justin, just you wait. Tina won't let you off when he finds out. Hearing this, Justin's smile grew even brighter. He squatted down slightly, raised his hand, and slapped David's left cheek again. The crimson palm prints mirrored on both sides, quite satisfying his OCD, and his tone became lighter. This one's for my pocket watch. Now we're even. Of course, if you want revenge, feel free to bring Tina along. I wouldn't mind giving her a couple of slaps too. With that, he stood up calmly, not sparing David another glance. Turning his head, Justin saw Emily at the window, looking displeased. The moment they made eye contact, she hurried over, opened the door, and gently rubbed his hand, her voice filled with concern. Why didn't you let me join in? Does your hand hurt? Seeing her, Justin felt his heart soften. Nope, doesn't hurt. Next time, why don't you do it for me? Hearing him speak so tenderly, Emily's mood finally improved. She helped him to the dining table and sat him down, then grabbed some eggs and went into the kitchen. Watching her hustle for something so trivial, Justin sighed, wanting to stop her. It's fine, it won't swell, no need to boil the eggs. Emily ignored him, finishing her task before sitting beside him, rolling an egg in his red palm. Seeing her being so earnest, Justin found it both exasperating and endearing. Did you get too caught up watching? Is the pear and silver fungus soup ready? I've been looking forward to it. Emily held on to her silence, refusing to take his bait, so Justin switched tactics. Are we heading to City A in a couple of days? Didn't you promise to take me home? How about we pack tonight? Emily finally spoke up. First, a trip to Europe, then City A. Europe? What's up there? Emily glanced at him, a hint of indulgent compromise in her eyes. The watch is your grandma's keepsake, right? Gotta fix it first. Otherwise, she'd be heartbroken when we visit her. Justin didn't expect her thoughtfulness, feeling a wave of warmth inside. But he checked the watch on his way over yesterday. It seemed beyond repair, and he didn't want a wasted trip. No need. It just stopped working. As long as I've got it, it's fine. His voice was full of reassurance, but Emily's eyes grew more sympathetic. She set down the egg, took his ring from her pocket, removed during his bath, and slowly slipped it on his ring finger, speaking earnestly. Let's go, treat it like a vacation. Anything related to you, I'll give it a try, even if there's only a 1% chance. Despite being unwell and with a swollen face, David waited outside the villa all night, unable to get in. The chilly autumn wind blew away much of his resentment. By dawn, he was feverish again, sobbing and constantly texting Tina to garner sympathy. She didn't respond to any of them. Not until the next day around noon did the doors open. The noise woke David, who had slept lightly, and he saw Tina getting into a car. He quickly struggled up and grabbed her hand. His usually pity-inducing eyes welled with tears, his voice extremely mournful. Tina, look at my face. Justin hit me. He said if I told you, he'd come after me again. Tina gave him a cold look, no longer having her old indulgence and affection. So what if you got hit? You deserved it. Don't bother him again. Got it? Her dismissive attitude was far from what David had imagined. He was stunned, full of disbelief. Tina, what's wrong? Why would you say that? Weren't you going to pamper me forever? Listening to his forced, pitiful tone, a flash of disgust crossed Tina's eyes, and she pulled her hand away, pushing him aside. You think I was serious? David, did you really think I liked you? It was just for fun. The only person I ever loved has always been Justin. Her words shattered all of David's hopes completely. Unable to accept this, he couldn't maintain his pitiful facade and screamed in frustration. You lied to me, didn't you? Tina, figure it out. You're supposed to like me. If you really liked Justin, why didn't you react when I hit him? Why did you leave him so many times to stay with me? When Tina heard those words, she instinctively clenched her fists, feeling a rush of uncontrollable heat inside her. Her mind raced with images. She remembered the incident by the bridge, the calendar in the villa, and the auction house argument. In every scene, she saw Justin looking lonely and dejected, his disappointment clear. It wasn't until she had lost him completely that she realized how wrong her past actions had been. Regret washed over her like a tidal wave, threatening to drown her. She didn't want to hear David bring up these old stories again, but he just wouldn't stop talking like a floodgate had opened. Even if you were just play acting, Tina, you're one of us now. The person you really love can't be Justin. Otherwise, why would you agree to the divorce? Isn't it because you have feelings for me? The word divorce brought the harsh reality back to her, shattering her remaining sanity. Unable to control herself, she grabbed David's skinny neck, her hands so tight that the blood pooled and her knuckles turned white. Quickly, the red spread up his neck and his face turned a shade of purple. David struggled desperately, but he was no match for her strength. He could only widen his eyes as he felt the air slipping from his lungs. Just when he thought he might die right there, Tina finally let go. He collapsed onto the ground like a broken rag doll. Tina didn't give him another look, leaving him to be dealt with by her secretary. I don't want to see him in front of me again. When the plane landed in Switzerland, Justin discovered Emily had everything arranged already. Transport, a 5-star hotel, and a butler for planning their itinerary. The seamless arrangements surprised Justin. He remembered Emily saying she came from an ordinary family. So how did she have connections and resources abroad? But with the stopwatch on his mind, he didn't think much more of it. At the watch shop, the repairman said it could still be fixed, and Justin felt relieved. In the following days, they traveled leisurely, visiting all the sites. Emily seemed to know everything about the place as if she'd been there many times. She could speak about every landmark and piece of history in detail. They even ran into some of his friends on the street and got invited to a manor. Justin was surprised to find out she knew horse riding, tennis, and could even critique wine made for European royalty. Day by day, the mystery around Emily deepened. Whenever he tried to ask a few probing questions, her innocent face made him think he was overthinking it. On the day of picking up the watch, Emily ran into a friend at the door, so Justin went into the store alone. They had tickets to return home that afternoon, so he didn't dawdle and quickly got the watch before heading out. But once outside, he couldn't see Emily anywhere. Instead, a crowd had gathered a few meters away. After scanning the area and not spotting her, Justin made his way over to the group. Before he got too close, he heard a voice very similar to Tina's. "What's it to you?" Hearing it, Justin froze for a moment. He climbed a nearby flower bed to get a proper view of what was happening. Sure enough, it was Tina. In just a few days, she looked much worse for wear, with bloodshot eyes as she grabbed Emily by the collar. "I'm looking for my husband. What's it to you? Get out of my way." Emily appeared much calmer. She glanced at Tina and casually batted away the hand wrinkling her clothes. "Justin's already divorced you. Ex-wife. Why act tough in front of me?" Seeing this unfold made Justin feel uneasy. It wasn't the confrontation that bothered him, but how Emily handled it. To him, she'd always seemed like a gentle, obedient girl who needed him to solve her problems. This side of her, so defiant and brash, was completely different from how he knew her for the past 6 months. While he was deep in thought, Tina, who had just been pushed aside, saw Justin. She immediately stopped reacting, pushed through the crowd, and ran to him. "Justin, why did you come to Switzerland without a word? Do you know how worried I was when I couldn't find you?" After being together for 5 years, Justin knew her current worry was genuine. But now, he didn't need this on-again, off-again affection anymore. He looked at her quietly, his eyes calm like a still lake. "Whether I travel overseas or not is none of your business. Besides, I'm not alone. I'm with my fiancé." Those words hit Tina like a thunderclap, leaving her frozen in place. Her mind went blank, all thoughts stopped except for one, repeating mechanically, "Fiancé?" Amid her disbelieving gaze, Justin nodded slowly and called out into the crowd, "Emily." In the next second, the woman who had been confronting someone transformed into a meek little lamb, peeking out with innocent eyes. "Justin, you're back so soon." Justin detected a hint of guilt in her voice. He indeed had many questions for her, but that moment wasn't the right one. So he pushed aside his doubts and waved her over. Emily immediately jogged over to him and instinctively reached out her hand, helping him down from the flower bed. Seeing them so comfortable and familiar with each other, Tina's stunned expression began to crack just a little. She clenched her fists tightly, looking at their intertwined fingers with shock, her voice sharp with loss of control. "Is this woman your fiancé?" Justin turned Emily's hand slightly, revealing 2 gleaming rings right in front of her eyes. "Is there a problem?" His casual tone ignited the fire of rage in Tina's heart. "It's been less than a week since our divorce." Justin glanced at her calmly, his tone still even. "Correction. With the mandatory cooling-off period, it's been 35 days. This statement left Tina speechless. She had spent days poring over that agreement at the lawyer's office, trying to find any loophole at all. But even after a team of top-notch lawyers reviewed it, they came up with nothing. She even contacted Justin's lawyer, hoping to negotiate and void the agreement. But their stance was firm. They said if there was no agreement on divorce, they would file it in court. Tina knew that was Justin's doing. If you want to untie the knot, you have to untie it yourself. Left with no choice, she composed herself to find him, chasing him abroad. She thought that once she found him, admitted her fault, and reflected on their past 5 years, he'd soften and come back. But reality struck Tina hard. She never imagined Justin would agree to someone else's proposal just days after their divorce. Her gaze locked onto Emily's face, and suddenly memories she'd shelved flashed back. The social media posts, the woman proposing, that figure resembling Justin. Only then did Tina realize she'd already seen their proposal video. At that time, she was too engrossed in her flirtation with David to know that Justin was determined to divorce. All at once, those piercing, unforgettable feelings of pain resurfaced, completely dousing her tiny hope. Meeting his now emotionless eyes, she bitterly asked her final question. "Are you with her just to get back at me, Justin?" At those words, Emily's eyes flickered too, turning gently to look at him. Facing these two meaningful, laden stares, Justin remained unfazed, because he already had his answer prepared. From the day he received the divorce papers from the lawyer, Justin knew that as soon as Tina learned the truth, she'd ask this question. After all, from her perspective, he was so deeply in love with her that she could openly cheat, use the excuse of not having had enough fun yet. She believed his love was unshakable, that even transferring it to someone else one day would be out of revenge. She wanted to use this excuse as comfort for overindulging herself. See, true unwavering love didn't exist in the world. All your previous flirtations were nothing but part of human nature. Anyone else in your position couldn't control themselves. They'd make the same choices. Even the man you tried to settle down with and loved couldn't remain constant for you. So why be harsh on yourself? If love is so fickle, why not give only half-hearted loyalty to it? Better to enjoy playing the game while young and then settle for someone similar when tired. Those were Tina's thoughts during her countless affairs after marriage. At first, Justin didn't understand this, until he recklessly approached Emily, suggesting they have a fling. It was only then that he first felt this way. The difference was, back then, he felt guilty for breaking marital vows. He wanted revenge, but he also hated himself for being unfaithful. These conflicting emotions tormented him, nearly driving him insane. It was only after a sudden car accident that he finally saw through the confusion and found a liberating path. What was love, what was hate? In the face of life and death, they were just hollow feelings. Once you're gone, just ashes, then nothing's left. For unworthy people and things, was it really worth torturing yourself, wasting your life away? He was only 27. Why should he tie his entire life to Tina? This was Justin's answer to what seemed like an unsolvable marriage dilemma after surviving the accident. So after he recovered, when Emily jokingly asked again for a formal commitment, he agreed. He decided to let himself off the hook, to stop spiraling and becoming someone as dissolute as Tina. He still had the courage to start over, someone who one-heartedly loved him, and an unimaginable future. He and Tina were never the same, and with time passing by, Justin finally got the chance to speak those long-held words, clearly, in front of Tina, word by word, leaving no room for doubt. Revenge? I once thought of avenging you, but later I realized it wasn't worth sacrificing my life for your shallow, cheap love. So choosing to be with Emily wasn't revenge. It was simply because we love each other. To me, love means being together, and not having it means breaking up. A simple and easy decision. You didn't need to make so many excuses to cover up your change of heart. You could have just told me you didn't love me anymore, and I would have willingly left. But you kept dragging it out without letting me move on. The year I married you was the darkest, most painful of my life. But I'm through with it now. I've moved on, deciding to finally let myself off the hook. Maybe you're one of those people who can fall in love with many others at the same time. Maybe the open marriages you talk about will become the norm someday. And maybe one day you'll wake up and take back all those pieces of your heart and return home. But none of this matters to me, Tina, because you and I have never been on the same path. Not before, not now, and not in the future. After saying that, Justin didn't take another look at Tina. He got in the car with Emily. In the rearview mirror, Emily could see Tina breaking down and collapsing to the ground, and she couldn't quite keep the corners of her mouth from turning up. But in front of Justin, she had to act like the sweet, innocent girl, so she turned her head to hide her laugh. When she was done laughing and adjusted her expression, she met Justin's somewhat suspicious eyes. If you're going to gloat, do it openly. Why hide? Oops, looks like I've been caught. Realizing this, Emily's smile froze for a moment, but then it quickly returned to normal. She clung to Justin's arm and acted coy, trying to smooth over what had just happened. I was laughing because Justin said we're in love, not because I was gloating. Her quick change in demeanor surprised Justin a bit. He reached out and lifted her chin, forcing her to look at him. I remember telling you when we set the rules that I don't like deceit. I'll give you another chance. You'd better be honest. Though his tone was gentle, Emily could feel he wasn't too happy, so she dropped her smile and told the truth. I was gloating a little. Seeing that she admitted it, Justin blinked and asked the next question. Do you know who she is? Hearing this question, Emily's fingers instinctively tightened a bit, not answering right away. The truth is, she didn't know how to respond. After all, in Justin's eyes, she was always the obedient and trouble-free one. He said not to find out who his wife was, so she pretended not to know. He said to stay quietly at the villa without revealing her identity, so she played along. In this not-so-pure relationship, she hid her true self just to catch his attention, to stay by his side, waiting for the right moment. The perfect time to take over. Now that her wish had come true, Emily should be honest about everything. But she worried that after all Justin had been through, if he learned she had deceived him too, he might leave her. So she kept the secret hidden as long as she could. But now it seemed she couldn't hide it anymore, especially given the serious look he was giving her now, making her feel like she was sitting on pins and needles. In her mind, two little voices argued. One urging her to tell another lie, one telling her to stop pretending and be honest. She didn't know which to listen to. She was torn, until his warm, slender hand grasped her overly anxious, fidgeting one, grounding her. And a voice with calm, hidden strength spoke in her ear. You're my fiancée now. Aren't there some secrets you're willing to share with me? Emily? That single sentence made all the troubling thoughts in her mind disappear. Emily finally had the courage to look up and meet his gaze head-on. In her eyes was no longer the fake compliance and meekness but endless determination and a flicker of hesitation. She didn't want to lie to him anymore. At least for this moment, she wanted to be herself. Actually, the first time we met wasn't at that bar but a month earlier at a party. You attended with Tina, but halfway through, she left you to dance with someone else. You sat alone, drinking quietly, while everyone whispered about the two of you. I remembered your name when you smashed a bottle on Tina's shoulder while drunk. You were quick and decisive, and your words were sharp. Everyone was stunned into silence, but you didn't care and left the room with your head held high, leaving a lasting impression on me. After that, I gradually learned about your situation with Tina. I was curious about why someone as brave as you would trap yourself in a rotten marriage, unable to let go. I have an insatiable curiosity, and it seems there was some fate between us. Who could have known we'd meet again at a bar? That night, you mistook me for Tina, cried in my arms, and poured out all your sorrow and pain. Oddly enough, even though I thought you deserved it, I couldn't help but hold you and comfort you all night. That's where our story began. You felt incredibly sorry for mistaking me for someone else and insisted on compensating me. I didn't accept it, but you chased me to my school, forcing cash on me. After that day, rumors about me being kept by a man spread throughout the school, and everyone talked about it. To clear my name, I had to find you to return the money. But you had just fought with Tina and were drunk again. You saw me and said you wanted to keep me. Honestly, I wanted to refuse, but your eyes were so vulnerable, and I'm someone with a soft heart, so I couldn't help but agree. Later on, I wondered why I made such a foolish decision. Was it just because I'm soft-hearted? Actually, part of me was hopeful. I hoped to see you free yourself from that mess, to see you regain your freedom. But all your subsequent choices just let me down repeatedly. I couldn't understand why you stayed with Tina or why you thought keeping me was the best revenge against her. She's just a heartless mess. Even if you got your revenge, would it even matter? You'd still be the one getting hurt, right? But I gotta admit, every second you're around, I can't help but get drawn to you. As long as it doesn't involve Tina, you're always so calm and collected, so laid back. I really like that side of you. That's why I was willing to play the lowly part, act all helpless just to stay close to you. It wasn't until the car crash, seeing you at the hospital all covered in blood and unable to open your eyes, that I first thought about snatching you away to keep you safe. If before, I wanted you to leave Tina out of sympathy, from that moment on, I realized I was fooling myself. I liked you too much to wait patiently for you to make up your mind. I was ready to take you away, even if you didn't agree to the divorce. Thankfully, when you woke up, you finally broke free from that prison that held you back. You don't know what it meant when you promised me a rightful place and agreed to divorce. I was about ready for a ring to fall from the sky and put it on your finger right there. I wanted you bound to my side so you wouldn't have a change of heart. Luckily, you didn't change your mind. In the end, there was relief and happiness on Emily's face, mixed with a barely noticeable panic. Seeing that complexity on her face, Justin felt a swirl of emotions. He never thought from Emily's perspective. Their story would have run so deep and unspeakable. Two people, both with hidden feelings and never admitting them, somehow ended up together. No misunderstandings, no doubts, no fights. Everything just happened naturally, as if fate was guiding them. It felt like some divine being pointed the way for him, clearing the fog in his life. Up high in the sky, silky soft clouds floated by the window, almost within reach. After a nap, Justin woke to find a pair of eyes intently watching him. He picked up his phone and saw only a couple of hours had passed. He couldn't help but frown. Seeing this, Emily nervously offered him some water she had ready. Did you have a nightmare? Or dream about something unpleasant? Justin was indeed thirsty, so he took the water, gulping it down. Just as he set the glass down, the plane flew over a city. He stared at it for a while, and then turned back to see Emily looking pouty and upset. Justin, I spilled everything to you. Why are you ignoring me? Are you still mad at me? Justin realized he hadn't said a word for quite a while. He was shocked by what she revealed, replaying the past in his head. So he wasn't in the mood to talk. On the plane, he had dozed off and the whole thing slipped his mind. Only when she tentatively prodded him did he remember he needed to respond. To be fair, Justin was a little mad about Emily deceiving him. It wasn't the lie itself. From the get-go, he assumed she was just an ordinary girl needing money, offering to keep her as his because of it. That was a sleazy thought, he admitted. That wasn't what bothered him. It was that she kept pretending even after he had confirmed the divorce. He'd proposed and she still hadn't come clean. How long did she plan on hiding it? So while he had forgiven her actions, he still had some frustration left, needing a proper outlet. Seeing her play the fragile card again made his heart soften. To prevent himself from getting swayed, he covered her face with a hand and calmly said, "Of course, I'm still mad. You've kept things from me for so long. How do I know if you're telling the truth now? What if you're still hiding something?" Through his fingers, Emily saw his stern face and quickly raised her right hand. "I swear I've told you everything. If I'm hiding anything, may I be struck." She hadn't finished before Justin covered her mouth, full of exasperation. "We're up in the sky. Don't jinx anything. I'll ask you some questions and you need to be honest. I'll decide whether to forgive you or not." Seeing a chance, Emily eagerly nodded. "So you said your family was average. How average are we talking? Some money, a few houses. If you wanted any jewelry, it could be bought after some hustle, that kind of average." Hearing that, Justin recalled offering her a few million as compensation. How come he didn't offer her more? Just a few million, that's probably why she wasn't interested. She probably thought he, a wealthy man, was stingy. He seriously let the rich guy team down. But he wasn't about to admit that. "Who asked for jewelry? You didn't even take my support money. How could I take jewelry from you? It's not that I didn't want it. I was just worried you'd think I was after your money and dump me. I wanted to show you my sincerity." After a ton of questions on the way, Justin felt he had a decent grasp on Emily's truth and finally softened up to forgive her. She was thrilled, seriously over the moon, and once off the plane, she whisked him right home. Before their trip to Switzerland, he promised her he'd meet her family. But as the car rolled into the luxury villa district in the heart of City A, he fell silent. He turned to her, voice low, "This is your average family?" "Not average. Maybe my parents' constant reminders to stay humble confused me." Hearing this near-perfect reply, Justin realized for the first time Emily was quite the smooth talker. He was about to chide her when the car stopped. He looked at the dozen or so people waiting at the door, and a flicker of surprise broke through his usually calm eyes. "Weren't we just supposed to meet some family members? Why are there so many people here?" Before he could process it, Emily opened the car door, pulled him out, and started with the introductions. "Hi everyone, this is my fiancé, Justin. Justin, this is my dad, mom, big brother, and over there is my aunt and uncle." As he was introduced to each person, Justin barely dared to lift his head too much. Even though he had heard about them, he never had a chance to interact with them, whether with his own family or after marrying Tina. Only Emily's older brother, the so-called cold and aloof leader of the family business, had he seen a few times at banquets. It seemed like the brother remembered him too, casting several evaluating glances his way. Justin's already racing heart started pounding even faster. After the small talk ended, he used the excuse of needing the restroom to catch a quick break. But as he stepped out, he bumped into Felix. It felt like Felix was waiting for him, as he extended his hand with a chilly look in his eyes. "I didn't get to properly greet you earlier. Should I call you Justin or Mr. Tina?" The comment froze the smile on Justin's lips. But he quickly composed himself, shook Felix's cold hand, and answered with quiet dignity. "Justin is fine. My marriage with Tina is completely over. Just ended, and you're already with Emily and even engaged?" The pressing question made Justin's scalp tingle. His mind raced for a reasonable explanation. But no matter how he phrased it, it always came out wrong, sounding rather improper. After some thought, he decided honesty was best. "I met Emily while still married, so technically I cheated. But I have no regrets about what I did." Felix seemed surprised by his frankness, his expressionless face showing a hint of interest. He nodded, asking another question. "Emily's much younger than you, isn't she?" "About 5 years. Justin roughly calculated, a little nervous now. He picked up on the implication that he might have taken advantage of the age difference to mislead a younger girl. Although that was somewhat true. But with things already as they were, and with Emily not wanting to give up, he didn't want to back down in front of her brother. He mustered up some courage. "She's young, yes, but she's an adult. I respect her wishes and followed my own heart when agreeing to her proposal." The cramped space fell silent for a long while. Justin stared at the silent man across from him, feeling he might suffocate if they stayed here for any longer. He was just about to lose it when Emily showed up. She saw the scene and immediately understood what was going on. With a raised eyebrow, she stepped protectively in front of Justin. "Big brother, didn't I already talk to you about my situation with Justin? Why are you trying to intimidate him? Already discussed?" Hearing this, Justin looked up instinctively. When their gazes met, Felix's tone softened considerably. "What you mentioned was one-sided. This is a big deal after all. I had to check for myself. So it was just a test." Justin instantly relaxed. Before he could catch his breath, he saw Emily was about to argue back, so he hurried to stop her. "It's all right, Emily. I actually wanted to have this chat with Felix. There shouldn't be any secrets." Hearing that, the icy look in Felix's eyes cracked a little, warming ever so slightly. He glanced at his protective sister. "As for your divorce from Tina, she's not looking to settle privately. I've lined up a legal team. I'll handle the case so you guys don't need to worry. Once the paperwork's through, following our parents' wishes, you'll need a proper engagement ceremony." "Is that all you have to say?" Faced with his younger sister's question, Felix nodded before turning away. Justin hadn't expected things to go this way. He leaned toward Emily, whispering a question. "Emily, are your folks truly okay with my divorce?" Felix, who was at the corner by then, turned back to look at them and spoke deeply. "My sister's a grown woman, as you said. She has her own judgment and decision-making abilities. As long as she's willing, we'll respect her wishes and won't interfere. This has always been our family's tradition. Having witnessed so many twists and turns among elite families, this was Justin's first time hearing of such a straightforward family custom, and he was taken aback. Your family seems not like the rumors at all. Emily found his rare, shocked expression endearing. Holding his hand, she explained softly, "It's your first time here, so it's understandable if you feel puzzled. Once you're more familiar with everyone, you'll see that they're different from how they're portrayed. Take my brother, for example. He may seem stern and unapproachable, but he's actually famous for being a pushover at home. If my sister-in-law says go east, he wouldn't dare go west. And my parents, they're retirees who enjoy peace and quiet, so they don't really speak up in noisy settings." After staying for about half a month, Justin gradually fit into the family. He genuinely felt that they welcomed him and wished him and Emily well. The anxiety and apprehension he'd felt before arriving slowly faded away. As temperatures began to drop and cold air moved in, the weather forecast predicted a heavy snow by the end of the month. Upon hearing that, Emily promptly started packing, insisting she wanted him to see the season's first snow. Having grown up in the north, it was his first winter in the south, soaking up the mild weather there. He kept saying, "Let's wait a bit for the snow." After putting it off repeatedly, they finally found themselves on a plane the day before high school. Emily had persuaded him to get on board. As soon as they landed, big snowflakes started falling. Emily wasn't as excited as he'd expected. Instead, she was eager to head home. Seeing how urgent she seemed, Justin couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Wasn't she here to see the first snow? Why was she so indifferent now that it was snowing? Justin figured she had something up her sleeve he wasn't aware of, so he stalled a bit. Emily held out for only 10 minutes before she spilled the beans. "Justin, you've already accepted my proposal, but you still haven't taken me to meet your parents. By the end of next month, I'll reach the legal age to marry. Don't you think we should lock this down?" "So, she just wanted a promise, huh?" Justin sighed, looking more than a little helpless. "Are you in such a rush to get married? But my divorce isn't finalized yet. Getting married now would be illegal, right?" Emily took his hand and put it in her pocket, leading him slowly into the snow. "My brother said the divorce should be wrapped up by early next month. Your folks might not be thrilled with a daughter-in-law as young as me, so we need to start getting them on board." "You're right about that, but what if they won't agree? Then just talk me up a bit. Sing my praises. They'll come around eventually."